Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 306 on Meta-type Fight. The episode begins with Ash training with all of his Pokemon, Pikachu, Tailo, Corphish, and Trico, on the beach on the inlet, doing the wave dodging technique yet again, trying to master it. That involved meditation and their eyes being closed. Essentially, they would close their eyes, and then when they could hear the wave approaching, they would quickly run at the right time. Anyways, as their backs were to the wave and their eyes were closed, Ash told Pikachu to get ready, and they all listened to the wave until Ash heard it and told everyone to run. Even though this had been a struggle for them before, they were now getting the hang of it, as when the wave was about to strike, they all ran off and dodged the wave in time. Upon successfully completing the wave training, Ash and all his Pokemon cheered at their own success, happy that they were all getting the hang of it, with Max and May congratulating Ash as well, stating that his training was finally paying off, and that he was finally doing awesome. And May added that if Ash kept this up, he could be ready for his rematch with Brawly. Brock then calls over from the grass on the inlet toward the beach, letting everyone know that breakfast was ready. So everyone sits down and begins eating, including the Pokemon, eating Pokemon food, when suddenly a huge wave appeared that a girl happened to be surfing on. The girl notices Ash and points to him and jumps to the shore. Ash wonders who the fuck she was and what she was doing here, and the girl simply responds by asking Ash a question, asking if he was Ash, with Ash confirming this, and this led the girl to challenge Ash to a battle. Brock tries to stop her, informing her that Ash and the gang were currently having breakfast right now, so they couldn't battle, but the girl didn't care and simply demanded that Ash battle her, leading Ash to accept, which in turn led her to introduce herself, or at least try to, but then the huge wave came crashing down and soaked her. After this, though, she did introduce herself as Shauna, the battle girl, who was also Brawly's top student, and also his girlfriend. Going on about how, even though she really enjoyed training with her boyfriend Brawly, she wanted to see if she could get some practice from an opponent who battled him, and she knew that Ash had. Everyone was immensely shocked to see that this was Brawly's top student, and this just made Ash want to challenge her even more. So he sent out his Pikachu, and they were about to battle, although Ash soon calls the battle off because he was immensely hungry, but assured her that after he ate, then he would definitely battle her. Shauna gets mad at Ash for not putting battling first, and demands that he accept her challenge now. Ash felt like he had no choice, so he was going to fight through the hunger, as he told Pikachu to get ready once again. However, just as Shauna went to send out her Pokemon, her stomach growled, and she fell down from both hunger and embarrassment, because she knew that she had just criticized Ash for being hungry instead of wanting to battle, but she was now in the same boat. So she admits to Ash that she was starving as well, which gets Ash mad that she was criticizing him when she was having the same experience. Ash tries to hold up his ground this time to prove that Shauna was the trainer who cared more about eating than battling, not him, but he couldn't hold his ground for too long because his stomach then growled again, and he laughed embarrassingly as he admitted that he was still hungry as well. Brock, upon seeing this, suggests that both Ash and Shauna just have a bite to eat before their battle, with Brock promising Shauna that his food was pretty good. Despite the offer, Ash and the gang were still a little startled when Shauna immediately took up the offer and sat down at the table and immediately started gulping down a majority of the food. As Shauna continued eagerly eating, May commented that Shauna seemed way too energetic, even in comparison to Ash. Pikachu agreed with this as he simply sighed and looked out to the ocean. Unbeknownst to Pikachu, when he looked out into the ocean, he just provided Meowth a good view of him, as Meowth was spying on Ash and the gang through Team Rocket's Magikarp sub periscope. Yeah, that's right, they rebuilt their Magikarp sub again. As Meowth was watching, his stomach growled, because he was hungry as fuck as well, and he really wanted some of the food that Ash and the gang were eating. Just then, he smells something, and he starts to believe that he was somehow smelling Ash and the gang's food from all the way down underwater, but he then looked behind him and saw that Jessie and James were eating stew. This leads Meowth to get mad, asking why they didn't tell him they had made food. Jessie simply argues that her and James forgot, but assured Meowth that there was still some left that he could have. Meowth was glad about this, but before he indulged in eating, he first informed Jessie and James of what he had saw on the periscope, being that Ash and the gang were currently eating, and there was a new girl hanging out with them. And he also said he had a plan, which intrigued Jessie and James as they told him to go on, leading Meowth to explain his plan. While Ash and the gang were distracted with eating, they could sneak up on them and steal Pikachu before they could even notice. Elaborating that when they snuck up on them, before they revealed themselves, they should dig a whole bunch of pitfall traps to try and lure Ash and the gang into, so that actually grabbing Pikachu would be even easier. Jessie and James agreed to this, and then Meowth said that if they managed to get the girl inside of the pitfall trap as well, then they could steal whoever her Pokemon was. Despite Shauna getting a bit of a heads up on Ash, her and Ash both finished their meals at the same time, and they thanked Brock for his good cooking. Then, both of them remembered their imminent battle, but before they battled, they proceeded to get into an argument to trash talk each other, while glaring at each other, refusing to blink, with Shauna essentially stating that she was angry with Ash and really wanting to battle him because Brawly had said that he considered Ash a better trainer than her, and basically, Shauna was so offended by this that she wanted to challenge Ash. And she was basically like, oh, there's no way you're a better trainer than me, bitch, and that's what got Ash mad. And upon seeing this argument, May and Max actually remarked how Ash and Shauna definitely seemed very similar, because they were both pretty hot-headed. They were finally actually about to stop arguing and battle, but before they did, Brock really wanted people to help with the dishes, so he requested that they help him with the dishes and wash them before they battled. Ash protests, but Brock tells him that it was currently his day to wash dishes. Shauna didn't want to do dishes, but hearing that Ash wouldn't be able to battle until he was done the dishes, she decided to help him so that they could battle faster. So the two of them washed the dishes as quickly as they could, although they continued to argue while washing dishes about who was a better trainer, leading them to have a little mini competition before their actual battle as they raced to see who could get done washing a half of the dishes first, leading May to laugh, stating that Ash clearly had a brand new rival. Meanwhile, Team Rocket had surfaced on the Inlet's beach in their Magikarp sub, and they began digging holes everywhere, bragging about the awesome hole digging job they were doing, stating that there was no way they could dig a bad hole, with Meowth adding that if Ash and the gang didn't fall into the holes, then Team Rocket must have been idiots for thinking that the holes were good. Basically, Meowth was confident that they weren't idiots, and they knew what they were doing when it came to digging holes. But right as he said this, Meowth falls into one, which led James and Jesse to have no sympathy for Meowth, stating that he definitely deserved to fall in the hole for even bringing up the possibility that Team Rocket could be idiots. Yeah, I don't know about that, guys. I think you guys are for sure idiots. Meanwhile, back with Brock, while Ash and Shauna were still washing the dishes, he took the opportunity to go into the forest and collect some firewood. When he was doing this, though, he looked out to sea and noticed that the waves were getting pretty fucking bad, and he also saw some Shroomis, Seedot, and Zigzagoon leaving the forest, looking for a different area to find cover. Upon seeing all this, Brock was able to piece together that a huge storm must have been approaching, which was only cemented when he saw storm clouds approaching. Meanwhile, back at the actual inlet site, Ash and Shauna were finally preparing for their battle, with Ash sending in his Pikachu, telling it to get ready again, while Team Rocket observed, hoping that Ash and Shauna would fall into their pitfall traps, and eager to see what potentially rare Pokemon Shauna would send out. May and Brock were wondering this as well, while Max was just excited to see a battle. Right before Shauna could send out her Pokemon, though, Pikachu got distracted as it looked out to sea yet again, noticing how bad the weather was getting, as it could see the dark clouds approaching. But Ash didn't notice this, so he simply ordered Pikachu to focus up, and Pikachu obliged, getting into a battle-ready pose as Shauna finally sent out her Pokemon, which was a home Pokemon, Meditite. And May, of course, scanned it with a Pokédex to learn more about it, as the Meditite took a meditating pose. The battle then finally began, with Shauna ordering a Focus Punch, but Pikachu dodged this. Meditite then tries to attack with a high jump kick, but Pikachu dodges this again. Jesse and James and Meowth were in immense shock at both of the Pokemon's power, but they were getting mad because since neither of them were hitting each other, they weren't getting weaker, which would make them easier to catch, and they also weren't falling into any of the holes that they had dug because they had been managing to skillfully dodge every one of them without even knowing. Brock, upon seeing how both Shauna and Ash were fighting, remarked how Shauna was purely using brute force, like Ash used to back when he was a newbie trainer, whereas Ash was using his strategy of dodging by maneuvering like he dodged the waves. Basically, he was actually using his training to his advantage, which showed growth for Ash. Ash then finally had Pikachu try and strike with a quick attack, but Meditite used Detect to sense the attack and dodge. Meditite then went in for a high jump kick, though Pikachu was once again able to continue dodging, and it then went to go for a quick attack, although Meditite was able to dodge this as well. Pikachu and Meditite just continued to dodge each other's attacks, but finally, after dodging another one of Meditite's high jump kicks, Pikachu was about to get off a quick attack when suddenly Brawly showed up and instructed Ash and Shauna to call off the battle immediately. Ash and Shauna were a bit hesitant, although Shauna was nervous to see Brawly, so she recalled her Meditite immediately. Ash, however, was still hesitant, so Brawly had to jump literally in the middle of the field and instruct Ash to recall his Pikachu, which he did, putting Pikachu back on his shoulder. Brawly thanked Shauna and Ash for the cooperation, assuring them that this current time was no time for a match. Ash and Shauna asked why, leading Brawly to reveal that a huge hurricane was heading for Dewford Island. So instead of battling, Ash and the gang and Shauna should focus on finding a safer spot to evacuate to. Brock, who was semi-acting as the referee of the match, declared the match between Ash and Shauna a draw, stating that Brawly was right, a huge storm was coming, as he remembered seeing all the dangerous storm clouds, as well as all the Pokemon running away. And he and Ash also realized that the reason why Pikachu seemed to be so zoned out earlier was because it had noticed the storm coming as well. May was so worried about the hurricane that she grabbed Max, hoping that she could use him as a shield, and she only got more scared when Brawly told everyone that the storm has been reported by meteorologists to be one of the worst hurricanes ever recorded in the area. Brawly then turned his attention to Shauna, questioning why she was fighting Ash in the first place, leading Brock to try and explain to Brawly that Shauna had went to challenge Ash. However, Brock gets cut off as Shauna shuts his mouth and drags him away just as Misty did. Weirdly, when Brock called Shauna Brawly's girlfriend, this implied that Shauna wasn't embarrassed that she was battling Ash, but rather embarrassed that Brock was about to call her Brawly's girlfriend, so maybe she wasn't actually his girlfriend. After Shauna lets Brock get back up, Brawly instructs Ash and the gang and Shauna to follow him to a safer place. Meanwhile, as for Team Rocket, who was still watching from behind a rock, James was concerned about the hurricane, but Meowth assured James that they would be safe if they stayed underwater in the Magikarp sub, so they went in their Magikarp sub to dive underwater to avoid the hurricane. Anyways, back with Ash and the gang, Brawly and Shauna, they were hurriedly running, trying to find shelter, as it was now raining extremely hard, so they were essentially going through the forest, trying to find the nearest cave to take shelter in, but along the way, Shauna found 3 Seedot huddling together, scared from the hard rain. Shauna tried her best to calm the 3 Seedot and promised them that they could come along with her and Ash and the gang and Brawly so that they could join them in the cave shelter if they found any. And Brock found the 3 Shroomish from earlier who had failed to escape the forest and promised them that they could come along to their shelter as well. So the Shroomish and Seedot began tagging along, as Ash and the gang and Brawly and Shauna unknowingly passed by some 3 Rattata and 3 Wingull as well, although they didn't help them out or invite them because they didn't see them, unfortunately. Meanwhile, as for Team Rocket, they had made it to their Magikarp sub, but the waves were getting so bad that they were almost thrown off their Magikarp sub and were having trouble getting to the entrance. Unfortunately, even when Meowth did make it to the entrance at the top, when he went to go open the entrance hatch, he found it jammed. He tried his absolute best to open it, but before he could, a huge wave came and hit the Magikarp sub, sending Team Rocket blasting off, along with their sub, which they still tried to hang on to. Anyways, back with Ash and the gang, Brawly, Shauna, and the 3 Seedot and 3 Shroomish, they were now all walking on a steep mountainside, as Brawly knew that there was a cave at the top. As Brawly led everyone, May got extremely scared as she looked over the edge of the mountain and said that she didn't want to go any further because, she was just too afraid by the height of the mountain. But Brawly informed her that they had to press on because if they didn't, then they would just be killed by the hurricane anyways. Ash agrees with Brawly and actually tells May to be more like Shauna since she wasn't a scared little bitch like May. However, Shauna laughs embarrassingly, admitting that she actually was extremely scared. Which made Brock surprised, although he didn't say his surprise because it was kind of offensive. He was like, well, how could a fucking top trainer at Brawly's gym, who always rode waves that was super high, be afraid of the height of a mountain? Anyways, seeing that both May and Sean were scared, Ash suggested that everyone should hold hands to prevent anyone from falling down. So, everyone does so, but when Brawly offers his hand to Shauna, Shauna refuses. Blushing. May was confused by Shauna being flustered by holding Brawly's hand, since she was Brawly's girlfriend, so she should have been used to holding his hand by now. However, when Brawly heard May say that Shauna was his girlfriend, Brawly actually denied this. Extremely shocked. Shauna knew the jig was up, so she embarrassingly revealed the truth, stating that she only hoped to be Brawly's girlfriend one day, and she wasn't actually his top student, rather just a beginner. Shauna also didn't even officially train with Brawly yet, she just studied at the gym to learn from him. Ash and the gang were all immensely shocked by this, and Shauna was immensely embarrassed, but Brawly just told everyone to focus on the evacuation effort, stating that he would discuss Shauna's lies with her later. Evacuating to the cave was more important. Shauna was hesitant to take Brawly's hand still, feeling that she didn't deserve to, but Brawly offered his hand out to her, stating that they didn't have much time to fuck around, so Shauna grabbed Brawly's hand, and everyone continued toward the cave at the top of the mountain. Just then, though, some lightning from the storm strikes a rock, breaking it in half, and sending the rock tumbling down toward everyone, which immensely frightened everybody, aside from Brawly, who was able to quickly think and send out his Hariyama, and he told it to use Arm Thrust, which managed to destroy the rock into tiny little pieces that caused no damage. However, lightning then struck a tree and caused that to fall down, but thankfully, Pikachu simply used Thunderbolt to destroy the tree and knock it away, leading Brawly to compliment Ash on having quick thinking, just like him. Ash and the gang's troubles weren't over yet, though, as Team Rocket was still being blasted off, and they landed on the path on the mountain right in front of Ash and the gang, being tossed off their Magikarps up as it falls down to the ground, being destroyed, and they just, landed on the path by themselves. They were initially almost knocked out from falling out off of their sub, but they quickly regained consciousness and got on their knees, begging for Ash and the gang and Brawly to take them with them to wherever shelter they were going. Ash and the gang were obviously hesitant, not wanting to help out Team Rocket at all, but Brawly, being the gym leader on the island, felt like it was his duty to help protect anyone, so he permitted Team Rocket to come along with them to the cave, making Team Rocket extremely grateful, or at least they seemed grateful, as hearts developed in their eyes, and they thanked Brawly. Eventually, Brawly managed to lead everyone, including Team Rocket, to the cave at the top of the mountain, and when they went inside, they found that the Rattata and the Wingull that they had failed to spot earlier had made it into the cave as well, safe. Yay! Brawly then starts a warm fire, and Brawly, Ash, May, Brock, and Max sit around it, although Team Rocket preferred to sit a little farther away by all of the Pokémon. Hopefully they weren't planning on stealing them. And also, Shauna wasn't sitting with Ash and the gang, and Brawly either. Ash, May, and Brock and Max worried that she was not sitting with them because she was upset or something, so Ash and May both encouraged her to come sit with all them, but Shauna denied this, claiming that she was fine on her own. Brock then asked Brawly if he knew why Shauna seemed relatively disappointed and distant, leading Brawly to state his belief that Shauna was likely disappointed due to not being his official top student yet. Brock then questioned why in specific Brawly hadn't just made Shauna his top student, leading Brawly to admit that Shauna definitely was a tough battler, and she would make a good overall top apprentice of his, but there were two major things holding him back from making her his full-on apprentice. One being that she didn't like to show her full emotions. She just liked to constantly show off her angry side to try and intimidate people, and also use this angry side of hers when she was training her Pokemon, more so focusing on just giving them relentless training instead of bonding with them. Upon hearing Shauna's flaws, May compares her with Ash, still believing that they were similar, but Ash denies this, admitting that he was trying to get over his more hot-headed and reckless nature, especially when he was training with the waves and training his patience to avoid them. And Brock admitted that Ash definitely had come a long way in that regard, since he used to be fucking angry all the time, but now he was getting better. And he also pointed out the fact that Ash wasn't similar to Shauna in the fact that Ash really did bond with all his Pokemon, and even May agreed with this. Brawly then puts the subject back solely on Shauna, as he admits that she was definitely really strong, and she had the potential to be his top pupil, but she still had a lot of training ahead of her when it came to training her emotions, and the way she acted around Pokemon. But regardless, he knew that Shauna wouldn't get anywhere if she just sat around and moped, as opposed to just being around her, so that, he could teach her right now and shit. He called over to her and told her to join them. She was hesitant at first, but she did, and warmed her hands by the fire. With Shauna now having joined everyone, Brawly begins to tell a lecture as a whole bunch of waves crash below the mountain. And Ash and the gang and Shauna listen extremely closely as Brawly goes on with his lecture, stating that nature was unpredictable and everyone was powerless against it, so it was wiser to simply seek shelter than to prevent storms from happening. Evidencing that that's likely what a lot of Pokemon did before human intervention with a lot of the species. They basically just were forced to seek shelter if they couldn't combat it. As for Team Rocket, they were still sitting over by the Pokemon, relatively closed off from everyone else, as they huddled together, cold as fuck, wishing that they could be warmed by the fire. Just then, Brawly noticed them by themselves and questioned if they were cold, and invited them to come and join the fire, to which Team Rocket happily agreed, as they ran over to the fire and began warming themselves, thanking Brawly. Meowth went up so close to the fire that he ended up burning his tail, though he was so happy to be warm that he initially didn't realize his tail was on fire, but when he did, he began freaking out and ran around the cave, annoying Ash. Eventually, they all went to sleep for the night, and the next morning, Max was the first to wake up, as he walked to the entrance of the cave and saw that the storm had passed, and he yelled to wake everyone up, informing everyone that the storm was gone. Everyone else soon gets up and stretches, happy that the storm was gone. But then, Brawly notices that Team Rocket was gone, and he also notices that all the Pokemon were gone as well. Although Brawly knew where they had went, they had likely just went back to the forest, naturally. However, he still wondered where Team Rocket had went, and sure enough, right as Brawly asked this question, Team Rocket appeared, having hid in the cave, and they block the entrance so that Ash and the gang couldn't escape, and they say their motto, demanding that Ash give them Pikachu. Not surprising Ash and the gang at all that Team Rocket had decided to betray them. Of course, Ash refused to give away Pikachu, so James and Jesse tried to take Pikachu by force by sending out their Seviper and Cacnea, although Cacnea of course hugged James first, prickling him. Seviper then used Poison Tail, and Cacnea used Pin Missile, but Pikachu was able to dodge the attacks. Ash simply commands Pikachu to send Team Rocket blasting off with a Thunderbolt, but Brawly stops him, stating that he wanted to get revenge on Team Rocket for betraying his trust, since he was the one who invited Team Rocket by the fire, and he also told Ash that Pikachu using Thunderbolt would only cause the cave walls to crumble, therefore killing all of them. Whereas he had a way to send Team Rocket blasting off without destroying the cave, as he sent out his Hariyama and had it use Arm Thrust to send Team Rocket blasting off straight out of the cave, without damaging it. Everyone cheers at Team Rocket's defeat and exits the cave, but the cheers are cut off by Shauna, who changes the subject, reminding Ash that they never got to finish their match earlier, and he wanted to know if they were still up for it, because she really wanted to prove herself. And Ash confirmed that he was, and they decided to battle right outside the cave, with Ash going on one side and Shauna going on one side of their makeshift battlefield. As Brawly, Brock, May, and Max watch, with Brawly being the ref, the battle begins with Meditite going into its meditation position, and Pikachu getting into a battle stance, as Meditite went in for the first attack, being a Focus Punch. This led Ash to order Pikachu to implement the Dodge the Wave technique by closing its eyes and then anticipating Meditite's movements. Pikachu does this, and when it hears Meditite get close enough, it goes in for an agility-powered quick attack, although, much to Ash's surprise, Meditite was able to dodge the quick attack using a Detect to detect the move. Pikachu then went in for yet another quick attack, but Meditite had used Meditate, which allowed it to focus even more than with the Detect, which allowed it to leap to the left to dodge the quick attack. Brock, May, and Max remembered that Shauna usually went for a more offensive strategy, way more offensive, but now she had changed it to a defensive one, and they were surprised by this, leading Brawly to admit that Shauna must have now learned that she needed focus in battle, perhaps learning this from her previous battle against Ash. Brock then pointed out how Meditite and Shauna seemed pretty in sync, not usual for a trainer that would simply just order their Pokemon to attack and not bond with them, leading Brawly to reveal that Meditite was Shauna's exception, as she had grown up with the Meditite, so the two of them were pretty close. But she did still have to focus on bonding with others. Anyways, the battle continued, as Ash told Pikachu to use Quick Attack again, and it went for one, but it happened to slip and fall. So, Shauna knew this was her chance to actually attack instead of defend, and she had Meditite going for a high jump kick. Ash simply responded by telling Pikachu to dodge like it had before, telling it to close its eyes and feel Meditate arriving like the wave, and then dodge at the right time. Pikachu manages to do this, imagining Meditite as a wave dodging the high jump kick, much to everyone's shock, causing Meditite to slip and fall, giving Ash the opportunity to end the battle with a Thunderbolt, knocking Meditite out, and Brawly declares Pikachu and Ash the winner. Pikachu happily jumps into Ash's arms, and Brawly compliments Ash on improving since their last battle, stating he was impressed with Ash's new skills, stating that he balanced offense and defense quite well. Shauna then picks up her defeated Meditite as it comes to, and congratulates it on doing a good job despite the loss, and she then comes up to Ash and congratulates him on the win, thanking him for the chance to battle, and admitting that she had no hard feelings about her loss. Ash thanks her, and shakes her hand as Brawly comes up, and admits that Shauna put up a tough fight, and questioned if she believed she had made any progress because of this battle. And Shauna admits that she thought she definitely made some progress, being able to be more in tune with her Pokemon especially, but she clarified that she did, in fact, need more training. Upon hearing this, Brawly decides to officially take her on as his personal apprentice, even though he knew it would be hard. He wanted to help her reach her full potential. Shauna was overjoyed at this, promising to Brawly that she would work extremely hard, and she then gets up and kicks the air in excitement, making everyone laugh. Ash then talked to Brawly, informing him that he had been training hard and was now ready for their rematch. Brawly agreed, though told Ash that he wanted to battle somewhere different this time, with what he called his practice field. Ash was confused, so Brawly simply told him to follow, assuring him that he had a practice field, as they then approached the edge of the ocean, being led by Brawly to see a large rock island not too far away, leading Brawly to admit that this rock island was his own private area. Ash thought the rock island looked cool, but wondered how they were going to get there from across the water, but Brawly simply told him not to worry, as the ocean splits and the sea level decreased, revealing a stone path that Ash and the gang and Brawly could use to reach the gym. Ash then made a fist, telling himself that he wouldn't lose again. He would win the goddamn knuckle badge. He was more determined than ever. The episode then ends with Ash and the gang and Brawly making their way over to the Rock Island, with Ash's rematch against Brawly about to finally begin after all these goddamn episodes. Damn, we spent a long time on Duford Island.